Yeah, a huge day for the football club. Two players of a certain pedigree, of a certain potential, which we're looking forward to getting on that first team pitch. But obviously there's been a bit of uncertainty in the last few weeks in relation to what their future holds and where it lies. So we're delighted they've put pen to paper.
Like you say, both had very strong interest and even spent some time at some Premier League clubs. I mean, what does that say about the club itself and that we can offer players in terms of their development?
We feel it's the right thing to do, to allow players to go out and train at other clubs, not so much just trial at other clubs, but train at other clubs and to sample other environments. But we feel there's no better pathway and no bigger opportunity than with our first team. And they've spent a few days with ourselves already training within that first team group, and they'll remain as first team players. So, like I say, two players who we hope to get on that pitch sooner rather than later.
It's going to be great for the fans to be able to see these, two exciting talents. In the past we've had players like Ethan who've been around, and Ben been around the first team a little bit, but fans never really got to see what they can offer. So
yeah, exactly, and the same with Jay Stansfield. So it's really important, and even some of our players in the first team at the moment, some of our fans haven't seen these players play live, which is an incredible thing to think about. So the fact that I'll get to see him hopefully in the next few weeks in pre-season, and then as the season goes on. But now it's about for these two players finding their feet in men's football in a different world than what they're used to, and we'll be as patient as we possibly can in relation to their development. But like I mentioned earlier, there's no better place in relation to opportunity, and if they continue to develop like they have been doing in previous weeks and previous seasons, we're going to have two players close to that first team sooner rather than later.
And if we start with Sonny as well, just what is it about him that excites you?
Goals. Simple as that, goals. But there's more to his game as well. But he scores goals, scores all types of goals. Got a huge appetite to do that as well, which all the top goal scorers need. And he's done that in youth level consistently. So it's clear where he wants to be on the football pitch, and that's as close to the opposition goal as possible. There's various aspects of his play we need to improve, and he knows that. And we've got to be patient with his physicality. But when you've got an eye for goal at such a young age, as sometimes you can't coach. So we've got to be mindful that we don't take anything away from his game, but keep on adding layers on top of what's a really good player at the moment.
And he was actively involved in the first team picture last season, especially towards the end where he was warming up with the team and everything. So I guess that will help with his transition into that environment. Yeah,
look, we try and give him as much experience as we can, and even Harry to a certain extent. They've spent time within our environment, even on match day and game day, which is where the pressure's on and where points are all to play for. So he's sampled it, but now it's slightly more serious. Now he's signed his contract. Now it's a chance to play within those moments, and that game time is absolutely crucial. So we want him to keep developing at a certain rate, and he'll only do that through training well every single day, but also getting the game time he needs. If that's not with the first team, then certainly with the 23s, and he might still drop down and play a few games in the 18s as well. But our first protocol is to get him with ourselves in pre-season.
I was going to say that, is he likely to get the chance in pre-season to show some fans what he can do?
Definitely, and we hope the fans are there. But in the next few weeks, certainly in terms of the opposition we've got and the local non-league scene, so to speak, they'll get the chance to see these two players starting next Tuesday night.
I guess we should also say, focus on the families, because they've had probably an important part to play in this as well. This decision.
Huge part, and it's not always an enjoyable time because it's a stressful time and you're never quite sure where your child's going to end up, and there's always a bit of uncertainty in terms of a footballer's future. So we're delighted they've sort of tied themselves down to a contract with ourselves at Exeter City, and the families have played a big part in that. But the most amount of credit goes to not only the parents, but obviously the players themselves, and then the academy. And like you mentioned early on in the interview, it's always a big moment and a big day for our academy when young players put pen to paper. It's our biggest battle and my biggest challenge as a first team manager, trying to keep all of these young players for as long as we possibly can. And we know some of the good players will move on, but it's all about when they move on and what they've done previously. And you mentioned it before, it's so important we get them on that first team pitch and in front of our fans.
And if we move on to Harry now as well, someone the fans are probably a bit more familiar with, having seen him take the place on the bench towards the end of last season. What is it about him that excites you? Well,
he was close to coming on as well. Remember the injury to Lewis Ward early on in the season. It's incredible what's happened with goalkeepers in the last couple of seasons in terms of the disjointed nature of our number one spot, but a 16-year-old who's beyond his years, ahead of his time in terms of his age, his maturity, but also his pedigree as a goalkeeper. We expect him to keep growing, so we might get a couple more inches out of him, and obviously he'll fill out in terms of his physical size, which is a big aspect in our style of football. He's got to be a presence behind a strong unit in terms of the back four or the back boys, and he's also got to command the box. We're going to be really demanding of what happens with Harry in the next few weeks, especially because he's going to find his feet with a new goalkeeper coach in Scott Brown, who's going to put him through his paces. But in the climate and due to the current circumstances, he's obviously going to get some more game time as well.
And he's like Sonny as well. He's been playing under 18s as a 16-year-old. I guess that says a lot about his development and where he's at as well.
Yeah, look, they've almost outgrown their own age group, and that's no disrespect to their own age group, but it happens sometimes. And sometimes playing at their own level doesn't fulfil them or doesn't satisfy them or doesn't do anything in relation to their development. It almost becomes too easy, and they can pick up bad habits off the back of it. So to get them up in age is vitally important first and foremost. If they can cope with the under 18s, and they get closer to the 23s and first team and so on and so forth. And the fact that they've both spent significant time with ourselves is absolutely key, because it's meant this week hasn't been a surprise to them. It's not been a shock. They've not been strangers to the rest of the group, and they've probably felt comfortable coming back into that environment. And I know they've worked hard. I know they're physically a little bit drained in relation to what they've done, but that's only natural in pre-season. But like I say, it's all about a platform now. They need that platform to go out and to perform at their best. But with all young players, you have to be patient. In Harry's situation, and a goalkeeping position is such a difficult one, and the most important one on a football pitch. And there will be times where he'll make mistakes, and that's where we've got to get around him as a group of staff and a family and a support network to keep him thinking the right things.
And for both of them, seeing the likes of Josh, Joel, Alex, Archie, MJ, all these players be given opportunities and take them and establish themselves, can only be inspirational to them.
Yeah, well, those players you mentioned have earned those opportunities, and the opportunities only keep coming if they keep performing. So, like I say, football's a simple game. You play well, you get a position on that football pitch, and I'm sure these two players will do that and learn that in the coming weeks and coming seasons. But to commit to ourselves at a young age in terms of 16, and to almost bypass the academy stage from 16 to 18 and go straight into the first team tells a lot of people where these players are.
And just finally as well, Harry and Sonny are just again two shining examples of the hard work that goes on behind the scenes from everyone at the academy.
Absolutely, and we publicise it as best we possibly can, but rightly so. It's a foundation, it's a cornerstone for our football club, and they keep on coming. I've got a really privileged job in relation to seeing these young boys come through and getting to see them on the first team pitch, and it's certainly not myself who gives them the opportunity. It's the players first and foremost, and then the families like you spoke about, but all the staff within the academy. They deserve huge amounts of credit, and more than what I can say in words. But every day like this is a successful day for Exeter City, and a reflection on the work which goes on behind the scenes.